We come to the end of the course today. Oh, there's a sadness. And my task today is to address subject number 8, which is the embodiment of love, the Incarnation. Now, embodiment. Embodiment means making a body, making it there to be seen, to be beheld, feel, it has weight, all these things, but that's a bit dead. The body I want to talk about is a lively body with whom we can react. A lively body causes reactions. Now, the essence of body, one's own body, and I referred to this a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about humility, you may remember. I was talking then about the body as being a creature, like the kind of thing which other experts can create. But our own body has come from our own parents, and it's been fashioned, adjusted by all who have influenced us. And we've learned about ourselves through our own bodies. Our own self-knowledge brings us knowledge of our lively, loving selves. In like manner, God has behaved through the Incarnation. By taking flesh, he has revealed the nature of his own self, who he is best shown in a body. I discussed a bit also the way that Jesus discovered the nature of himself. Jesus developed as an ordinary human being, discovering himself in his own family, and finally, as we understand through the biographies, we call them the Gospels, he came to complete realization in the wilderness experience, when finally he was fined and off he went to perform his vocation. So we people here in St Giles's at the moment, we are part of the whole group, that body of Christians. We are the church, and we have our methods to bring Jesus to lively remembrance, particularly in the Holy Communion, or we can call it the Eucharist, or there are those who call it the Mass also, which I'm always interested in, because Mass comes about the final words of that service in the Roman Catholic Church, in which people are sent out. It's not only, as it were, something to look at and hear about and know, it's about off you go with the knowledge of what you have encountered outside. So, in this course, we who have stood here have made our different efforts to embody the conception of love, what it's like. It all came from Andrew Bunch, as you probably know. It was his conception. But he, not only himself, we also have made our efforts to embody what this notion was. Andrew talked in talks 1 and 3 of the course about love, the heart of the matter, and how it's motivated by compassion. Now, Georgie, who did talks 2 and 4, by the way, Georgie, you see, has provided really the very essence, as it were, the bones of the skeleton, because we've inherited what she has laid down over the years of Thursday lectures here at this time, on and on, and we have used the structure that she has created and refined over these times. we've inherited it, and we have each in our own way relived it. So Georgie talked to us about lives changed by forgiveness, and the way that we are motivated by mercy, loving kindness, that is, in our love. Then there was Tom, whose IT skills have helped me to get talks out, and he's finally failed, though it's not his fault on this occasion, because my computer would into not visual flames, but complete incapacity when I started trying to type out this course. If there's any recording, it's being done by the machine here. So Tom IT, a practical man, in talks 5 and 7, talked about practical love, about doing it. And that leaves me in particular in lectures 6 and 8, when I talked in talk 6 about humility, about how one had to be, as it were, ordinary, about being lowly, until today, about the embodiment and the incarnation. We've all brought different facets of love to the fore, but we here have worked at it, in our different ways, because love is of the essence of Jesus. And Jesus, of course, is the very embodiment of love himself. If you're doing the Bible studies, you'll be offered the opportunity to look at 1 John chapter 4. Love is seen, not only seen, but lived. And Jesus is not only thought of, but manifested. God is not only thought of, but manifested in Jesus. In our church life today, December the 1st, we've caused there to be Advent calendars. I have one from my accountant. You open it and there are little bits of chocolate behind each number. Very dull stuff. Tom was telling us, I gather, that he has come across Advent calendars. You open the little windows and there's whiskey, one bottle and then another behind as you go on. My. We nevertheless are offered the opportunity in Advent to do something about the manifestation, the embodiment of the nature of Jesus, of his love. Now, it's practical stuff, this Advent. We're involved and asked to be involved in the practice of love. Love, and the definition again I provided a fortnight ago, from Erich Fromm, the set of the will for the eternal well-being of the other, the direction, the fashion, the set of the will. Erich Fromm, an interesting man, a Jewish Freudian psychoanalyst who lived at the beginning of the last century. He was born a Jew and he reformed himself in humanistic ways. But nevertheless, whatever he did, he was filled, his very nature was filled by the faith of his forebears. As we also here, being Christians, are likewise, were in some way most certainly formed in the faith of those not only of our own Christian forebears, but the Jewish ones as well. Anyway, Fromm produced this definition, the set of the will, and we're to do something about it. When I take wedding services, marriage services, I always quote Erich Fromm and this definition, because the life of a marriage is of no purpose, no significance, unless it's a practical thing, unless the parties involved in the marriage are involved in the practice of love. In the beginning, often the practice of love is so simple, it's like automatic, and you can't separate people. I remember I was always noticed he and she talking of me and my Susan. You can tell them they're always holding hands, they said. So wonderful, so easy to do. But this doesn't last. That kind of performance doesn't last. And one has to attempt, one has to apply the function of the will to keep it going. We have to work at it. And to do all these loving things like, I don't know, talking to each other, like saying you're wonderful, these things have to be practiced even though they may not necessarily spontaneously appear. William James wrote, how to gain, how to keep, how to recover comes by making, how to recover happiness comes by making others happy. That's how it goes. That is the nature of the working of love. And so here now in Advent, we're preparing to welcome Jesus. Welcome Jesus in a practical way, similar to the way that Mary welcomed him. That's to come. This Sunday we're going to be talking about John the Baptist and his ways of welcoming. We're looking forward, and I certainly am looking forward even on Sunday, to working along with John the Baptist to try to get this thing, that part across. But the other interesting thing, and really I'm going to round off with this thought, that Advent and that loving not only concerns the beginning of things, as Jesus being born as a little tiny baby in a manger, but also is concerned with endings. T.S. Eliot, Georgie has organised courses on T.S. Eliot, and from Little Gideon, we shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. As the exploration continues, so also what we call the beginning is often the end, and to make an end is to make a beginning. And the end is where we start from, also from Little Gideon. I think I am qualified, as I've said before, in the number of years I've just stood around the place and let the clock tick. And I am older than many others, even here in this church today. And because of this function, I reckon I can underline through experience this truth, that there is more to be discovered about life, about love, just because you're older. I wouldn't know about the quality of my understanding and my progress, but let's consider what's called the last things in Advent. In Advent, it's traditional in the church to discuss the four last things. It's death, judgment, heaven and hell. Sometimes there are sermon courses on these four subjects. And death, the first of them, is sometimes thought to be particularly a difficult subject. We don't like to talk about it too much in this generation of ours. But I don't know if you read a review of a book that's published just now. I don't know if it's yet arrived in the bookshops. A man called Gunter Grass has just published a book called Of All That Ends, all that ends. It's a homely treatment from the review, and I'm certainly going to get hold of the book. And it is through the love of his wife, love of he for his wife and she of him, that he develops a lovely thought about coffins and about how they're going to lay themselves down and let themselves be covered with leaves that will be collected at the time and laid to rest in such a way. This, of course, recalls us to the knowledge that Jesus has said that greater love hath no man than this, that you lay down your life for your friends. If you are to love, then the strength of the will of love becomes more frequent and deeper as time goes on towards death. A short thought about judgment. I mentioned this again last time. Judgment, when we come before God and are revealed before him for honest assessment. I tried to suggest last time that this was a hopeful time. It's like going up to the target at which you've been trying to shoot your arrows. And according to your skill, you more or less get the arrows close to the bull's eye. And if you don't get it so good one time, you have another go. This nature of the function of judgment, this understanding sin as hamartia or missing the mark, it's possible to regard it as positive. It's a work of mercy, misericordia in the Latin, kindness of hearts. Judgment, it's a positive towards a loving thing. Heaven, oh, it's too easy to do. Hope with all its bright futures, that is the function of love, which is too well expounded. But the last one, the fourth, hell. I suppose I can say that the church doesn't do hell much these days. Do you remember when Tony Blair was asked, or his chief of communication was asked, something about, are you a Christian, and what is your Christian view on this situation? He was told, we don't do God. I think the church can be said nowadays not to do hell. There was a time when a lot of power was wielded by the church through notions of hell and, dreadful endings if you just didn't do it right. That I don't know how much of the adornment here of St. Giles's has been caused, motivated by people feeling frightened about the end, and they put down expensive monuments and other beautifying things, windows it might be. Because, now I remember once a master craftsman said, I'm fearing for my job in the future. Now the church doesn't go in for judgment, it doesn't go into hell, he meant, because people won't give me the money to do useful things because they're not worried in the way they were. Okay. I remember singing a hymn in the past, Save Lord by Love or Fear. Do you remember? Save Lord. You did one or the other. I think this is what we don't do. We don't force people through terror ideas. People no longer are educated by fear of the stick. Children had to have the devil beaten out of them, or else they could never be good. This function also is the same thing. But with us, there is something else about love. It is good. The fact of hell most certainly is around. Goodness me. Syria and Aleppo, even now. But not only over there, it's happening also in Oxford. There's enough hell around here. People experiencing homelessness. This cold, this third night of freeze. How do people do without a home, without a proper bed for the night, with the closure of Oxford homeless shelters and so on, because of government cuts? There are people on our own doorsteps who are going through hell, and that kind of motivation might urge us on to do something positive towards their alleviation, towards helping them less to experience hell, more to experience heaven. In that sense, we can say, save Lord by love and fear. So this course of love, 8 times, 8 of its aspects, we've been producing, showing forth our Christian take. This is the gospel. This is the good news we've been recording for you. You shall love the Lord your God, love as you see love in Jesus. Do this, do this. Let this love change us. May we become lovers through the love we've seen and shown. Now is the time.